to the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Now, this budget commits Australia to record levels of defence expenditure, including an additional $14 billion over 4 years and some $53 billion over the decade. Defence spending will reach more than $425 billion over 10 years. Accountability in defence spending must also include accountability in decisions by defence, especially around its decisions on critical capabilities and managing defence assets. This is a live issue in Warringah, where Defence proposes to partially divest HMAS Penguin. Following its defence estate audit, the government has determined that some capabilities of HMAS Penguin are critical and will remain on site, including the clearance divers unit and the underwater medical unit. However, the government has also determined that other capabilities are non-critical and may be relocated, leading to the proposed partial divestment of parts of the site, including the remnant bushland. Along with my community, I strongly oppose this decision to partially divest HMS Penguin. I've submitted Freedom of Information requests seeking the evidence behind this proposal, including the cost-benefit assessment used to justify relocating so-called non-critical capabilities and partially divesting the site. To date, there has been no clear explanation of what is proposed to be divested. Is it the remnant bushland? Is it parts of the built environment? What buildings would be affected and what are their maintenance costs, and what assessment has been done to ensure they do not fall into disrepair? So my questions to the Minister are: will the government release the cost-benefit analysis behind the proposed relocation of non-critical capabilities and partial divestment of HMS Penguin? Will the government release the environmental, cultural, heritage and capability assessments underpinning this decision? Will the Minister clearly identify which parts of HMAS Penguin are proposed for partial divestment, including whether remnant bushland or significant buildings are included? Will the Minister guarantee that public interest will be prioritised and that the remnant bushland will be protected for conservation and that any buildings will not be sold for private commercial development? And will the Minister guarantee my community that this important public asset will not simply be sold off into private ownership? Secondly, the UK intelligence agencies recently released a report that found all critical ecosystems were on a pathway to collapse. Will the Australian government release a declassified version of the Office of National Intelligence Climate Risk Assessment and properly recognise climate change as a core national security threat? 2. Will Defence release any advice in relation to national security and capability assessment that it has provided the government in relation to climate risk and its impact on our national security? National security does not begin and end with military spending. The government continues to take a myopic view of security, committing hundreds of billions to defence while leaving climate resilience severely underfunded. Security experts consistently identify climate change and risk as one of the greatest threats to Australia's long-term stability. The government's own National Climate Risk Assessment highlighted the seriousness of the risks we face, yet just $117 million was allocated to climate adaptation and disaster resilience, most of it going to emergency response. Climate resilience is a national security issue, and if we fail to invest now, Australians will pay far more later and will not be safe, no matter how many submarines you buy. Finally, as discussed during the MPI today, Australians are entitled to much more clarity when it comes to the AUKUS agreement. There is no confidence in the public that there is going to be any value for money to the Australian people. Despite billions of dollars being transferred, there is no, as yet, guarantee that anything will be delivered to the Australian people. So I ask again to the government, will the government provide full transparency on any changes to the AUKUS pathway, including costs, delivery risks and sovereignty implications? 2. What guarantee can the government provide that Australia will not face a submarine capability gap after the Collins-class submarines retire in 2040, particularly if US shipbuilding capacity does not increase or a future US administration decides not to transfer the promised submarines? With over $10 billion to date already being transferred and much more being committed into the future, the Australian public deserves to know what guarantees can the Defence and the Australian government provide that capability will be available.